Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the State of PWAs. My name is Danny. I'm a web developer and a PWA specialist. For the last decade, I've worked as a freelance developer. I've done quite some work for the ING Bank in Amsterdam, where I helped pioneer web components. And currently I'm working at Oracle, also as a PWA specialist, working on the Oracle Apex platform. I'm also quite active on social media. You can find me on X. I write regularly articles about progressive web apps on Medium. And as mentioned, I also publish a weekly newsletter called Modern Web Weekly, also about web components, progressive web apps, and new features of the web in general that I test. And then I write about what I've learned. I'm also the creator of what PWA can do today, which is a demo app. It's a showcase of demos of what is currently possible with PWAs. The nice thing about this is that the app itself is also a PWA, so you can install it to your phone or your tablet or your desktop, and then you can see for yourself what is supported there. It currently contains around 38 demos. I regularly update it, and there's also code samples, so you can try out stuff for yourself. You can find it on whatpwa-can-do.today. So today I want to give you an overview of all the nice features that are already available to web apps, some of the new and upcoming features, really exciting features that are coming. But first of all, I want to zoom out a bit for those of you who may not be fully familiar with PWAs yet, and answer the question like, what is a PWA anyway? Well, as the name already implies, a PWA is a progressive web app, and that means that a PWA is in fact just a web app, but it has some nice extra features that give it quite some, well, you could say superpowers. What makes a web app a PWA, first of all, is that you can install it to your telephone or to your tablet or desktop just like a native app. So it will sit on your home screen with an icon. You can start it from there. A PWA can also work offline, fully offline. So there's no dinosaurs or something when you start it up. It can work offline. It can also receive push notifications. And of course, PWAs use modern web APIs. Of course, regular web apps can do that as well, but typically PWAs use stuff like audio, video, geolocation, and biometric authentication. We'll have a good look at that later. If you want to turn your web app into a progressive web app, there's basically two main components that you have to add. There's the manifest.json file and there's the service worker. The manifest.json file is basically like a regular JSON file. It contains metadata of your web app. For example, the icons, if you install it to your phone or your tablet or desktop, there's an icon on the home screen. And you can define which icons will be used in the manifest.json file. The most important part, what is actually the backbone of the PWA, is the service worker. A service worker is a kind of special JavaScript web worker. It takes care of offline support. It sits in between your web app and the network, as it were. So it can intercept all outgoing traffic, and that way it can provide offline support for your web app. It also takes care of receiving push notifications and some couple of cool background tasks, like background fetch and background sync, that we will have a look at later. So when I say a web app, it means that any web app can be a PWA. There are already quite some companies who are using PWAs. Like I said, I'm quite active on X, so I use the X PWA almost daily. Tinder also has a PWA. Well, I'm married, I don't use it, but they have a PWA. Other notable ones are Instagram, Telegram, Spotify has a PWA, and Figma has a pretty impressive web app, I must say. I also must say that some PWAs are not as good as their native counterparts. For example, Instagram, their PWA is not as good as their native app, unfortunately, because there is technically really no reason to. It could be much better. But yeah, at least these companies are using PWAs. There's also an app store for PWAs. You can find it at store.app. You can compare it to the Apple Store or to the Google Play Store, but then it's only for web apps. So, if we already have native apps. Why would you even want to build a PWA, a progressive web app? Well, there are a couple of very nice characteristics and benefits to PWAs. The first thing, one of the biggest benefits, is that for a PWA you only need one code base for every platform. So if you want to build a native app, you need to build a separate one for Android, you need to build a separate one for iOS, and you need to build a separate one for desktop, maybe multiple desktops. With PWAs this is not the case. You can just have one code base and you can deploy it everywhere. PWAs are also freely distributable and discoverable on the web, so there's no App Store dependency, no big fees that you have to pay. You can just put it on the web and people can find it there. And this may be the most important feature of PWAs, because right now companies like Apple and Google, they have the power to kick your app out of the App Store whenever they want, and they can finish your business just like that. So with PWAs this is not the case, and this is really a good benefit. PWAs are also lightweight because they only consist of web technology, HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Native apps can be sometimes tens of megabytes, sometimes even hundreds megabytes. I was looking at the LinkedIn native app, which is 399 megabytes. PWAs are typically much smaller, just a couple of megabytes, because they only use web technology. PWAs are also secure by default. They run on HTTPS, and also installed PWAs run inside some kind of browser environment, which is usually heavily sandboxed, so they are very secure by default. And as I mentioned, you can just share a PWA with the URL if you want somebody to install your PWA. You can just send them the link and they can install it from there. Another nice feature is automatic updates, so you don't need to go through a whole App Store review process or something whenever you have a new version of your app. If there is an update, you can just put it on your server, deploy it, and the next time somebody opens your progressive web app, they will automatically get the latest version. So the good news is right now is that, this is really a good time for PWAs. They are now better than ever. PWAs are supported on all platforms and devices, so iOS, Android, desktop, you name it. They are supported everywhere. There are a lot of new and upcoming features, which I will talk about later in the presentation. And historically, iOS support always has been a big problem for PWAs, and quite frankly, it still is. But especially in the past 2 years, support has increased tremendously. I have to say that the WebKit team has done an amazing job of putting more features into Safari and into iOS. So let's look at those features. There are a lot of features that your web app can use today that you can start implementing right now. Push notifications, for example. Your web app can now receive push notifications, and it can do so even when it's not running. So if you have users that have signed up for push notifications in your web app, even when it's not running, you can still, they can still get your push notifications. A current limitation for iOS is that the app needs to be installed. It needs to be added to the home screen. So if you have a web app running in Safari, right now it won't work. But if you install it to the home screen, it will work, and it can do so. It can, like I said, even when it's not running, you can get push notifications. Web apps now also have full access to the native file system. So that means that at least on desktop, your web apps can inspect the file system, you can create files, you can edit files, you can create directories, you can iterate over the file system all from your desktop PWA. Mobile is a bit different. Mobile, we have support for the origin private file system, and this is some kind of virtual file system, meaning that whenever you create a file there or a folder, you won't see it physically on your disk, but it is there. It can be inside some large file or something. But from the perspective of your web app, the origin private file system is just a normal file system, so you can create directories, files, everything there. And another nice thing about the origin private file system is that it's heavily optimized for very fast reading and writing. So for example, the Photoshop web app also uses the origin private file system for that reason. Another big problem that we always had with web apps is that if somebody installed your progressive web app and they didn't use it for a week or like 2 weeks, the operating system would just wipe out all the data that it saved to save some space. Right now, fortunately, your web app can request to get persistent storage, and that means that your data, the data that your web app saves, will always be safe. It will never be automatically deleted anymore, unless the user, of course, decides to do deletion manually, but the operating system will never ever delete your data again, so your data of your web app is now perfectly safe. There's biometric authentication, another hot thing right now. Your web app can let users log in with their face or a fingerprint, or maybe even one of those USB keys that you can use. So your web app can now also do passwordless login on any platform. The contact picker is almost ready. It means that your web app can now access the contact list of your device, of your phone, for example. So if you have a web app that needs to send an email, for example, the user can now just go to the contacts and select a contact there from the web app. This is not by default enabled in Safari right now. It's in the feature flag, so that means you need to enable it manually. But it has been there for a while. It's fully functional, not production ready, but it's fully functional. So I expect this to be enabled by default soon as well. There's view transitions, and I have a nice screen recording for you, but oh, that's very unfortunate, but let me check. Oh, sorry, I need to join the Wi-Fi here. Okay, let's go back. Okay, that looks better. View transitions is a new API. If you have used native apps, you're probably familiar with the page transitions that you often see in native apps. For example, if you go to the next page in a native app, you will see it sliding in from the right, and then when you go back, it will slide back to the right. These page transitions are now also available for web apps. And the good thing is that this is all built on native CSS transitions. So if you know CSS transitions, you can start using them right now. Another good thing is that they're available for both single-page apps and multi-page apps. So that means if you have a web app with completely separate HTML documents, you can now even have nice transitions between those documents as well. Okay, let's see if the video works. This is a demo from what PWA can do today. You can see here the sliding transition, as you can see in native apps. There's also a flip transition where the page flips over, also very nice. I have to say, if you go to the app itself, it looks a bit more smooth. The video is a bit choppy, I have to say, but in real life this is much smoother. This is also a nice one where the page just morphs out of the icon, as it were. These are quite simple demos. This only touches the surface or scratches the surface of what you can do with view transitions, but it's a very powerful API. And you can start using it right now. It's supported everywhere in every browser. There's also a couple of browser and operating specific features. Most notably, in Chromium-based browsers, you can now have the enhanced install UI. If you look here at the, well, right here, if your PWA is eligible to be installed, there's a button there. You can install your PWA from there, and then you will get a nice, very nice install screen. Sorry. Let's zoom in a little bit. This is what you see on desktop on this site. It will show the name and the description of the app, and if you have defined a couple of screenshots in your manifest.json file, these will show up as well. This is what you see in Chrome on Android. So as soon as you click the install button, you will get a nice bottom sheet, also with the screenshots again, and you can install your web app right from there. macOS offers something similar. You can now install web apps. Any web app actually doesn't even have to be a PWA. You can add them to the dock and they will behave like an app also. Another nice feature is the shortcuts. So on desktop, if you have an app installed and you right-click it, you will get a couple of shortcuts in the menu. And these will take you straight to any page in your web app. You can define this yourself. A current limitation for desktop is that the app needs to be running before you can see this. So if the app is not running and you right-click it, you won't see the menu. But if it's running and you right-click it, then you will see the shortcuts. Would be better the other way around, but unfortunately on desktop this is not the case. On Android this is much better. So on Android, if you have a PWA installed, it's not running, you can just tap and hold the icon and then the shortcuts will come up just like with any natively installed app. So those are a couple of features that you can already start using today. I would really urge you to use them also. They are still quite underused. A lot of this stuff has been available to web apps for years. But not very widely used, so I would really urge you to, if it makes sense for your web app, to implement this stuff. There are also a couple of new features that are almost available. Some of them still require a bit of polyfilling. Some of them need some feature flags toggled, but most of them can be used. Background fetch is a very interesting one. Background fetch enables your web app to download files in the background even when it's not running. So the current limitation with web apps right now is that if you're downloading a large file, you have to keep the web app open, because when you close it, the download is gone. With background fetch, you can just let the download continue in the background. This is already supported on desktop everywhere in Chromium-based browsers. It has been in the feature flags of Safari Tech Preview for quite a while now. It's not yet functional, but I expect it to come to Safari also quite soon. I also want to show you a recording from this from an Android device. So we go to the background fetch demo. There we have a playlist with a couple of large MP3 files. I will click them all to download them. And you can already see the progress in the first file. It's downloading. Then if we close the app, and now we go to the notification center, you will see that the download just continues in the background even when the app is not running. If we turn off the network, it pauses. And then when the network comes back, you will see that after a few seconds, the download will continue. And because we click more files, when this one is finished, it will automatically go to the second one, and this is all in the background. Now, if we go back to the demo, to the background fetch demo, we again see the playlist and the progress of the second file, and then after a couple of seconds, the progress will pick up again, and the web app will start to show it again. And then when this download is finished, it will automatically go to the third one. So this is very handy if you have a web app that needs to download large files. If you have like a podcast web app, for example, somebody needs to download a very large podcast file, they can do now in the background. They don't need to leave the web app open. They can just close it and it will take care of that. The other background task that is very handy is background sync. And this allows your web app to defer actions while offline and then execute them when the app comes back online. For example, if you have Google Analytics inside your web app, and when your web app is offline, the script will send requests to the Google servers, but of course they will fail because there is no network. What background sync enables you to do is to save those requests while the app is offline, and then when the app comes back online, it will automatically send those requests for you. So it's like an outbox, for example. The same with a form. If your web app has a form and somebody submits the form while the web app is offline, it can detect it, it can save the form for you, and whenever the network comes back, it will automatically send it for you. There is no support yet for this in iOS, but you can quite simply polyfill this with online and offline events. It won't give you the fine-grained control of background sync, but it works perfectly fine. So that means with all these features, the features that we already have that are available and upcoming features, that your web app can already be a great PWA today. We have a whole list of stuff that is available now. We have offline support, we have push notifications, you name it. On top of that, web apps can also access sensors. They can access cameras, microphone, location, all that stuff. This is already available to us. So your web app can really be a great PWA today. But of course, it's not all roses. There's still this big elephant in the room with an Apple logo on it. I already mentioned this before. The lack of support on iOS has always been a problem for the adoption of PWAs, and it still is. Although the support is much better, there's still a couple of things that are crucial things that are missing. For example, there's no native installation dialog on iOS. What I've done for what PWA can do today is I implemented my own bottom sheet. It looks the same as the native one. It has the name, description, the screenshots. But there's no button to install. So right now the only thing that you can do is give instructions to your users on how to install the PWA on iOS. It's not perfect, it's not rocket science either, it's just a few clicks, but it still hurts in, you know, getting PWAs adopted, especially for users who are not very tech savvy. The other bigger problem even is that on iOS, technically every browser, every other browser is also a Safari browser. The problem is that we now have, of course, we have Chrome on iOS, we have Firefox on iOS, we have Edge on iOS, but technically these browsers are all Safari browsers. Apple requires every browser that is installed on iOS to use the WebKit engine, which is the internal code of the Safari browser. So every browser needs to use that. No browser is allowed to bring their own engine, they have to use the WebKit engine. The problem is that the WebKit engine is very limited in its PWA capabilities. A lot of stuff is not supported that I showed you. So that means if other browsers need to use that WebKit engine, they are also handicapped, they are also limited. And yeah, this is basically how Apple has a firm grip on what is supported for PWAs on iOS. On the brighter side, there is a lot of legal pressure right now on Apple to comply with the rules and regulations from the Digital Markets Act. And two regulations from that are very important. The DMA says that Apple should allow alternative app stores on iOS. So right now we only have the Apple App Store, but the DMA dictates that third parties, other parties should also be allowed to bring their own app store to iOS. Another thing is what the DMA dictates is that other browser vendors should also be allowed to bring their own web engine, their own browser engine to iOS. So that means that Google could theoretically build another Chrome with their own Blink engine, which has much more support for PWAs, and that could be put in the Apple App Store. Now there are two problems with these things, is that for both alternative app stores and other browser engines, Apple has made it so difficult and technically unviable that nobody has even dared to do it. So technically it should be possible, but it's basically unworkable. The biggest hurdle for other browser engines is that whenever, say, Google wants to release a real Chrome with the Blink engine to iOS, it needs to be a separate app. So Chrome right now has hundreds of millions of users on iOS, and that would mean Google would need to separate or would need to launch a separate Chrome browser, so another app. It would need to convince all these hundreds of millions of users to uninstall the one they currently have and then install the new one, which is of course not feasible. So legal battles about this are ongoing. There's a lot of pressure on Apple. Things are slowly starting to improve, but for the foreseeable future we are unfortunately still stuck with this. We have to see how this works. So on the bright side, Apple is doing a lot of work on the WebKit engine to support more PWA features. So let's hope that more is to come, but the crucial features is still held back, and let's hope that the legal pressure will push them in the right direction in the foreseeable future. So with all this, all the features that you have available to you, all the stuff that is there, if you want to build a PWA, where should you start? Well, The first thing that you should do is make your web app work offline. This is very important. And when I say it should work offline, I mean that every web app should work offline. Right now, if you are offline and you try to use a web app on your phone, this is what you see. For 99% of the web apps, you will see the infamous dinosaur and a no internet error message. And this is basically something you should never ever do. There is absolutely no excuse for this. I sometimes have people coming up to me and they say, well, you know, I have this web app that really needs the network to function. If there's no network, my web app can do nothing. It's a messaging app, for example, and when there is no network, I cannot send any messages, so I don't need to provide any offline support for my web app. And this is plain wrong. This is based on a wrong understanding of what offline support really means. I was talking about messaging apps. Let's look at WhatsApp. This is what the WhatsApp app looks like when there is no network. There's no dinosaur, there's no error messages. WhatsApp just shows me the chats that I already have. It even allows me to compose a message and I can even send it. It will show up in my chat feed. If I send it to a friend, it will show up there. Of course, it can't be sent if there is no network, but it will be scheduled for sending. There will be an icon that says, okay, you know, it's not sent yet, but when the app comes back online, it will be sent. What they have done really right is that WhatsApp really understood what offline support is all about. Offline support does not mean that your web app should be able to do everything offline that it can also do online, because that is not possible. You cannot send a message, but at least you can schedule it. You can show the chats that the user already has. The bottom line is that offline support is all about providing the best possible user experience when your web app is offline. So there is always something that you can do. Anything is better than showing a dinosaur, because that makes your web app pretty useless. There is always something that you can do. You can maybe show a startup screen or whatever. WhatsApp could have chosen to say, okay, you know, we're a messaging app. There's nothing we can do without a network. Screw it. But they looked at what the best possible user experience was for that particular situation. So if you want to make your web app work offline, please look at what you can do while you are offline and provide the best possible user experience for that. If you want to make your web app work offline, I created a basic service worker for you. You can find it on GitHub. It has clear instructions. It's quite simple to implement. It's just adding a script to your service worker and then you can customize it. What it does is it makes your web app work offline. It will also save any requests that are made while offline for you. So for example, if your web app has a form and somebody submits the form while offline, the service worker will take care of saving that form and then it will send it when you come back online. It's on GitHub. Please try it out. Let me know if you have any questions about it. You can, of course, always reach out to me. Like I said, I publish a weekly newsletter, modernwebweekly.com. I talk a lot about this stuff. You can also ask me questions about this. So if you're interested, you can subscribe here. There's also a contact form on what PWA can do today. You can ask me questions there. Otherwise, you're also allowed to use my email address. So if you have any questions, any feedback or something, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to help. Thank you for joining.